Sometimes attraction doesn't look like flirting. It looks like someone remembering something you said 3 weeks ago. It looks like a conversation that should have ended 5 minutes ago, somehow continuing. It looks like a woman walking away from you, then turning around for one last glance when she thinks you aren't watching. And that is where things get confusing. Because when you like someone, your mind starts searching for evidence. A smile becomes meaningful. A text feels loaded. A little extra attention can suddenly feel like a confession, but sometimes you're reading too much into it. And sometimes you're not reading enough into it. There are people who are naturally warm. People who make everyone feel comfortable. People who joke, touch your arm, ask questions, and maintain eye contact without having romantic intentions at all. So the interesting question isn't, did she smile at me? It's, does she behave differently around me? That difference matters. Because attraction, when it exists, often leaks through small changes in behavior before someone consciously decides to reveal anything. Maybe you've noticed this with someone already. You have a normal conversation, nothing dramatic happens. She laughs at something you say, even though it wasn't particularly funny. Then later, you catch yourself replaying that moment while you're driving home. You wonder why she stood a little closer, why she kept the conversation going, why she suddenly seemed nervous when you looked directly at her. And then another part of you says, don't be stupid, she's probably just being friendly. That internal argument can go on for weeks. And strangely, the uncertainty can become more emotionally powerful than the attraction itself. Because your brain hates unfinished stories. So if you're trying to understand whether someone may be quietly attracted to you, don't focus on one isolated signal. Watch the pattern. One of the first things worth noticing is selective attention. Not attention in general. Attention specifically directed towards you. Imagine you're sitting with several people. Someone tells a joke. Everyone laughs. A few seconds later, you say something quietly under your breath. She hears it. She turns toward you. She responds. Maybe nobody else even noticed what you said. That tiny moment can tell you something, not necessarily that she's attracted to you, but that your presence has become unusually important to her attention. And sometimes you'll notice something even subtler. She remembers your preferences, the coffee you drink, a story you mentioned once, the name of a place you wanted to visit, something you casually complained about. You probably didn't think it mattered, but she remembered. Why? There are many possible explanations. She may simply be attentive, she may genuinely enjoy talking with you, or she may be emotionally more invested in the connection than she's admitting. That's why context matters. And there's another sign that can be even more revealing. She creates reasons for the interaction to continue. Not huge reasons, small ones. She could easily walk away, but asks one more question. The conversation reaches a natural ending, yet somehow another topic appears. You send a simple message, and instead of giving you a short answer, she adds something that gives you an opening to continue. Nothing obvious, nothing you could confidently call flirting, just a little unnecessary continuation. If you've ever experienced this, you know how strange it feels. Because you're standing there wondering whether the conversation is actually going somewhere, or whether you're imagining the entire thing. And sometimes that uncertainty isn't caused by a lack of signals, it's caused by something much more human. Both people may be waiting for the other person to make the first move, but before you decide what her behavior means, there's one subtle shift you need to notice. Because when attraction starts competing with self-consciousness, people don't always move closer. Sometimes they pull away. That pullback can be confusing, especially when it happens right after a moment that felt warm. You have a good conversation. She seems engaged. There's eye contact. She's smiling. Maybe there's even that strange little pause after one of you says something personal. And then, the next time you see her, she's different. A little more distant, less talkative, almost careful. You start wondering whether you imagined the connection. But sometimes, distance isn't rejection. Sometimes it's self-consciousness. Not always, of course. That's important. People pull away for countless reasons. Stress, timing, personal boundaries, lack of interest, simply having something else on their mind. But when someone feels unexpectedly drawn toward another person, they can become more aware of themselves around that person. They notice their voice, their appearance, where they're standing, what they're saying, whether they're being too obvious. And that self-awareness, can make someone behave strangely. Think about a moment when you unexpectedly found yourself caring about someone's opinion. You probably became less natural around them, not more. You might have rehearsed a sentence before saying it, checked your phone for no reason, changed how you were sitting, pretended not to notice them when you absolutely had. That's not necessarily romance, but it tells you something about the emotional temperature. And there's another behavior men often misread: nervousness. Not the dramatic kind, the tiny kind. A person who normally speaks confidently suddenly fumbles a sentence. She starts saying something, stops, laughs, and tries again. She looks directly at you, then breaks eye contact unusually quickly. She adjusts her hair or clothing, not because every gesture like that is some secret attraction signal, but because people often become more physically self-aware when they feel observed by someone whose opinion matters to them. The important part isn't the gesture, it's the change. If she behaves exactly this way with everyone, it doesn't tell you much. If she becomes noticeably more self-conscious, specifically around you, that's more interesting. But there's something else you should watch. Does she look for your reaction? This one is subtle. You're sitting in a group. Someone says something funny. She laughs, but then looks toward you. Or she tells a story and watches your face while everyone else is listening. She makes a small comment and pauses as though waiting to see whether you approve. Why? Because when someone becomes emotionally interested in another person, that person's reaction can start carrying more weight. Again, it doesn't prove attraction, but it can reveal importance. And importance is often where attraction begins to become visible. Maybe you've experienced this without realizing it. A woman says something ordinary, but then looks at you as if your response matters. You give a half smile. She smiles back. And suddenly, there's a tiny moment between the two of you that nobody else in the room seems to notice. Nothing happened. Technically. But you felt it. And you're probably wondering whether she felt it too. This is where many men make one of two mistakes. They either assume every small signal means she's secretly in love with them, or they dismiss everything because they're afraid of looking foolish. Neither approach is particularly useful. A healthier way to read attraction is to look for consistency, reciprocity, and context. Does she repeatedly seek interaction? Does she respond warmly when you give her attention? Does she seem interested in knowing more about you? Does she create opportunities for connection? And does that pattern continue over time? Because one moment can be coincidence. A repeated pattern is harder to dismiss. Still, there is one sign that tends to feel much more personal. It's when she starts remembering the little version of you that most people never bother to notice. The way you take your coffee, the expression you make when you're thinking, the story you've told more than once, the thing that makes you uncomfortable, the subject you suddenly become animated about. And when she brings one of those details up later, you may experience a strange feeling. Not excitement exactly, something quieter, the feeling of being seen. And that may be the part you're actually longing for. Not just to know whether she's attracted to you, but to know whether she notices you. Because underneath all the questions about flirting, signals, texts, eye contact, and body language, there's often a much more vulnerable question hiding underneath. Do I matter to her in the way she matters to me? And that question can make even the most confident man suddenly feel uncertain. But there is a behavior that can reveal something even deeper. Because sometimes attraction doesn't show up in how someone looks at you. It shows up in what they become curious about when you're around. Curiosity can be surprisingly intimate, not the polite kind, not, "So, what do you do for work?" I'm talking about the questions that slowly move past your public identity and toward the person underneath it. She asks what you actually enjoy, what you wanted to do when you were younger, why you stopped doing something you once loved, what kind of people you feel comfortable around. Maybe she remembers that you mentioned being tired last week and asks if things got better. That's different from simply keeping a conversation alive. She's trying to understand your world, and sometimes you can feel the difference before you can explain it. You answer one question, and instead of moving to another subject, she asks a second question about your answer, then a third. Suddenly you're telling her something you hadn't planned to tell anyone. You look at the clock. An hour has passed. Neither of you seems particularly interested in leaving. Now, does that automatically mean attraction? No. Some people are naturally curious and emotionally attentive. But when curiosity is combined with repeated attention, personal memory, and a desire to spend more time with you, it becomes more meaningful. Especially when she starts revealing things about herself too. Because genuine connection usually isn't an interrogation. It's an exchange. You tell her something personal. She gives you something personal in return. You mention a fear. She admits one of her own. You talk about something you normally keep private. And suddenly the conversation feels different, a little quieter, a little more exposed. This is where attraction can become complicated, because emotional closeness can make people feel both drawn in and vulnerable. And vulnerability creates another clue. Sometimes she may tease you, not cruelly, not in a way that embarrasses you. More like she has started noticing the little things about you and feels comfortable enough to play with them. You always order the same thing. She notices. You're always late. She notices. You pretend you don't care about something, and she catches you caring. That kind of playful attention can create a private language between two people. An inside joke, a particular look, a phrase that only the two of you understand. And once that happens, something interesting can occur. She may start finding excuses to bring you back into that little world. A message about something that technically didn't need a message. A joke referencing something that happened days ago. A picture or observation that makes sense specifically because of something you once talked about. Again, none of these things are proof. But notice the direction. She's not simply responding to you. She's carrying pieces of the connection forward. That's important. Because attraction isn't always about intensity. Sometimes it's about continuity. You remain present in someone's mind after you've physically left. And perhaps you've seen this in the smallest possible way. You walk away after talking to her. You're halfway down the street. Your phone vibrates. It's her. Something completely casual. You read it. You smile. Then you stare at the screen for a few seconds longer than necessary. And you tell yourself not to overthink it. You put the phone away. 30 seconds later, you check it again. That's the strange thing about uncertainty. It can make ordinary moments feel enormous, but there's another sign that deserves attention because it involves something many people don't realize they're doing. She starts adjusting her behavior based on your presence. Maybe she's louder when you're around, or noticeably quieter. Maybe she becomes more playful. Maybe she seems unusually composed. Maybe she suddenly cares about how she looks before seeing you. Maybe she remembers things you like and brings them up naturally. The important question isn't, what does this one behavior mean? It's, what changes when I enter the room? Because attraction often creates contrast, and contrast is easier to observe than any single gesture. There may be another clue too. She may begin testing emotional safety without consciously realizing it. She tells you something slightly vulnerable, then watches your reaction. She makes a small joke about herself and sees whether you judge her. She disagrees with you and notices whether you become defensive. Why? Because beneath attraction, there can be another question. Can I be myself around this person? And that question matters more than flirting. Because someone can find you attractive and still decide you're not emotionally safe. Someone can enjoy your attention and still not want a relationship. Someone can feel chemistry and still choose distance. Human beings are complicated like that, which is why the most revealing sign may not be how intensely she responds to you, but how comfortable she becomes being real with you. And when that comfort begins to grow, something changes. The conversations become less performative. The pauses become easier. You don't have to fill every silence. And sometimes, in one of those quiet moments, you realize something that can be both comforting and unsettling. You may not be wondering anymore whether she notices you. You may be wondering whether she's waiting for you to notice what she's been showing you all along. There is a particular kind of silence that feels different. You know it when you experience it. You're sitting across from someone, and for a moment neither of you says anything. But neither person rushes to escape the silence. She looks at you. You look at her. Then one of you smiles, almost instinctively. And suddenly the room feels smaller. That moment doesn't prove anything. Human beings can share comfortable silence for many reasons. But if you've noticed that these moments happen repeatedly with the same person, It's worth paying attention to the emotional atmosphere between you, because attraction isn't always loud. Sometimes it's simply the feeling that neither person is in a hurry to leave, and this leads to another subtle sign. She may start finding small ways to be physically near you, not necessarily touching you, not necessarily anything dramatic. Maybe she chooses the seat beside you when several seats are available. She walks alongside you instead of ahead. When everyone moves somewhere else, she somehow ends up near you again. If you're talking in a group, she angles her body toward you. These behaviors can have completely ordinary explanations, so don't turn them into a secret code. But repeated proximity can sometimes reflect comfort, interest, or a desire for connection. And there's a beautiful little contradiction here. Someone can want to be close to you, while still being afraid to make that closeness obvious. That's why you might see her move toward you and then become slightly reserved. She engages, then retreats. She looks, then looks away. She opens a conversation, then suddenly seems careful. You might think she's sending mixed signals, maybe. Or maybe she's experiencing mixed feelings. Those aren't the same thing. A person can be interested and uncertain at the same time. They can enjoy your attention while wondering what it means. They can want closeness while protecting themselves from embarrassment or rejection. And sometimes, especially when someone doesn't know how you feel, they may quietly test the situation. Not manipulate, not play games, just test. She gives you a little more attention and watches whether you respond. She shares something personal and notices whether you listen. She makes herself slightly more available and sees whether you make any effort too. If you respond warmly, the connection may become easier. If you seem cold, uninterested, or distracted, she may step back. And you might never know that she was waiting for a small sign of reassurance from you. This is where men sometimes misunderstand confidence. Confidence isn't walking into every interaction assuming someone wants you. That's not confidence. That's certainty without evidence. Real confidence is being able to notice interest without becoming consumed by it. You can think, maybe she likes me, and still remain grounded. You don't need to decode every smile. You don't need to analyze every message. You don't need to turn one glance into a 5-year relationship in your imagination. You simply notice. You stay present. And if the connection continues to grow, you give it room to become clearer. Because eventually, attraction tends to become less mysterious. The person begins making more obvious choices. They initiate more. They create more opportunities to talk. They become more personally invested. They make time. And time is important. People can be friendly for a moment. They can flirt casually. They can have chemistry and then forget about it. But sustained interest usually requires some form of investment, not necessarily grand gestures. Sometimes it's just consistency. She checks in, she remembers, she follows through. She wants to know what happened after the story you told her. She asks about something that mattered to you. She notices when you're quieter than usual. That's when you should stop obsessing over individual signs and start looking at the relationship as a whole. How do you feel around her? Do you feel respected? Can you be yourself? Is there reciprocity? Are you always chasing, or does she sometimes move toward you too? Because attraction without mutual effort can become exhausting. And I want you to notice something about yourself here. If you've been spending hours analyzing someone's behavior, there may be a reason you're doing it. Maybe you're afraid to ask. Maybe rejection would hurt more than uncertainty. Maybe you've been waiting for absolute proof before allowing yourself to be vulnerable. But absolute proof rarely arrives before vulnerability. At some point, someone has to risk being a little honest. Not dramatically, not with some grand confession, just enough to make the connection real. And that brings us to the final sign, the one that has less to do with flirting, and much more to do with whether she is quietly making room for you in her life. Because when attraction begins turning into genuine emotional interest, something changes. She doesn't just enjoy the moments you happen to share. She starts creating moments that wouldn't have happened without you. And once you notice that, you may finally understand why all those tiny signals felt different in the first place. Maybe the clearest sign isn't that she looks at you differently. Maybe it isn't the teasing, the nervousness, the extra questions, the lingering conversations. Maybe it's much simpler. She makes room for you, not because she has to, because she wants to. You suggest getting coffee, and she doesn't just say, "Sure, sometime." She helps find a day. You mention something you're interested in, and later she brings it up again. You tell her you'll be somewhere, and she remembers. You disappear into your own life for a few days, and when you come back, she notices. Those things can happen in friendship too. Of course they can. But when emotional curiosity, consistency, warmth, and effort begin appearing together, the possibility of attraction becomes harder to ignore. And there's something important here that I don't want you to miss. Attraction isn't a contract. Someone can be attracted to you and still not want a relationship. Someone can enjoy your company and still be unsure. Someone can feel chemistry and decide that the timing isn't right. That doesn't make the connection fake. It makes it human. You don't have to force certainty out of another person just to feel secure. You can allow something to unfold. And if you genuinely want to know where you stand, eventually, the healthiest answer usually isn't another 3 hours of analyzing body language. It's a small act of honesty. Would you like to grab coffee sometime? Do you want to spend some time together? Simple. No pressure, no performance, no elaborate strategy designed to make someone chase you. Just an invitation. Then you pay attention to what happens. If she responds warmly and makes an effort, you have more information. If she's vague repeatedly, you have information too. If she says no, it doesn't mean you weren't attractive enough. It doesn't mean you misread every moment. It simply means the connection isn't moving in the same direction. And that distinction matters. Because a lot of men quietly turn rejection into a verdict about themselves. One woman isn't interested, and suddenly the mind says, "Nobody wants me." One conversation goes badly, and suddenly you start questioning your confidence. One person doesn't choose you, and you begin trying to become someone else. Please don't do that to yourself. Your worth cannot be determined by another person's feelings. And ironically, the more secure you become about that, the easier it becomes to recognize genuine attraction. You stop desperately searching for signs. You stop needing every interaction to confirm something. You become curious instead of anxious. You can notice her smile without immediately building a story around it. You can enjoy the chemistry without demanding an outcome. And that's a very different kind of confidence. It's quiet. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to act indifferent. You don't have to pretend you don't care. You can care without losing yourself. Maybe that's what you were really looking for when you started wondering whether she was secretly attracted to you. Not a trick, not a formula, not some magical signal that guarantees what another person feels. You wanted reassurance that the moments you've noticed weren't completely imaginary. And perhaps some of them weren't. Maybe she really does look for you when you walk into a room. Maybe she remembers the things you say because they matter to her. Maybe she keeps the conversation going because she enjoys having you there. Maybe she gets a little nervous because your opinion carries more weight than she expected. Maybe she is waiting for a sign that you feel something too. Or maybe she's simply comfortable with you in a way that has nothing to do with romance. You won't always know immediately, and that's okay. Because the goal isn't to become obsessed with reading women. The goal is to become better at reading relationships. Look for patterns, look for reciprocity, look for respect, look for consistency, and most importantly, look at how you feel in the connection. Do you feel calm enough to be yourself? Do you feel respected? Do you feel like you're allowed to have boundaries? Do you feel that you're moving toward each other rather than endlessly chasing? Those questions will tell you far more than 100 internet lists of attraction signs. And the next time you're sitting across from someone you quietly care about, when she smiles at something you said, when the conversation stretches longer than either of you expected, when there's that little pause, don't immediately reach for your phone afterward and start analyzing every second. Just breathe. Notice the moment. Let yourself enjoy being there. Because sometimes attraction isn't a puzzle waiting to be solved. Sometimes it's simply two people slowly realizing that they feel a little different when they're together. And if there really is something between you, you won't need to force it into existence. You won't need to manipulate it. You won't need to become someone you're not. You'll give it space. You'll show genuine interest. And eventually, one of you will become brave enough to make the invisible thing visible.